Hello and welcome to the Static Traveller with me, James. Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Static Traveller, the podcast where I speak to travellers of the past and the present from around the globe, and I let them tell you in their own words about their adventures through this amazing world. Now, today's guests are travel couple Jules and Christine, also known as Don't Forget to Move. Jules and Christine are award-winning travel bloggers, and they now run a travel podcast, like myself, called Not-so-bonvoyage. Jules is from Melbourne, Australia, and Christine is from San Francisco, USA. So they first met back in 2012 in Peru, and they've never looked back since. So, Jules, Christine, are you there?
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much for having us.
Hey, how you doing, man?
Perfect, thank you for joining me today. So, why don't you guys give yourselves a little bit more of an introduction, just for anybody that doesn't know who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Christine and my lovely husband is Jules.
G'day.
We met in Peru in 2012. We were both solo backpackers that just wanted to travel around Latin America. And we met at a nonprofit and ended up volunteering there together for about 6 months. And then just kept traveling. We both just had the travel bug like insanely and wanted to keep working in nonprofits around the world. And the following year, we started our blog, which is called Don't Forget to Move, which focuses on adventure travel and sustainable tourism. And we're still traveling, not at the moment because of COVID, but since then, we've been traveling pretty much full time, exploring the world, working in nonprofits, and working on our blog and now our podcast.
Yeah. And the podcast is a little bit newer. It's only about 6 months, a little bit longer, but it's been a fun journey, and it's given us something to do while we're in lockdown, and also just a way to sort of stay connected with the travel community when we're not traveling.
Yeah, perfect. So, we spoke about, well, I spoke a little bit there about, your introduction, about how you guys met back in Peru. So why don't you tell everyone just a little bit more about that, how you guys met and how your journey began?
Yeah, so we both have a bit of as Christine said, we both had been backpacking solo together, and we were just traveling through South America, and we both had a passion for community development work, and we'd had experience in the past working in that. And so I'd actually gone past this organization back in 2010 when I was backpacking from Canada all the way down to Argentina. And yeah, I spent a bit of time there and really enjoyed it and really wanted to get back there. And so I'd planned in early 2012 to get back to this organization. And I got there a day after Christine. So we basically got there at the same time. And yeah, we started off as friends. We were there for 6 months together. And yeah, sort of our blossoming relationship sort of took its course. Although it was kind of accelerated a little bit because we were living, working, socializing, everything together. So our relationship was very much accelerated. So there was no dating, there was no awkward texting, there was no anything. It was just we got together and then we were together. And then 6 months later, we decided we wanted to keep that journey going. And when we left the organization, we continued traveling through South America. We took a slow boat. We took a 50-hour bus out into the Amazon and took a slow boat strung up with hammocks up the Amazon to a little town called Iquitos, and had some crazy adventures and traveled across into Colombia, and yeah, just kept the travels going. And we realized at that stage that we sort of had to find something that was going to be a little bit more sustainable in terms of like how we were going to continue this lifestyle, how we were going to work. And then we started thinking about travel blogging, started thinking about how we could work online possibly. And that's pretty much how the blog came about.
Okay, so just to go back to the start there, so who made the first move? Who was the one that showed the interest first?
I'd say it was pretty equal, but if we do had to say, I kissed Jules first, so I guess I did. It's a mutual interest.
It was a mutual
built up.
Yeah, it was the first month we were good friends. Well, from the beginning, we worked on the first project that we got put on was together. And so we became good friends. And so we were working together all day. And then at night we were hanging out and socializing and with the other volunteers as well. And so, yeah, so it was about a month of a slow courtship, and then Christine just couldn't resist anymore. She kissed me first, and then I just couldn't stop following her around. So yeah, it's a bit of a mutual.
Pretty much.
So with the volunteering, right? So a lot of people that, myself included, have that impression that, you decide you want to go and do some volunteering, you go down and you do what you want to do. But from what you said there, you were teamed up kind of thing, and it was kind of coincidental you ended up in the same team. So I take it it's all very structured and you're given tasks of what you're to do.
Yeah, so it's pretty structured. So as Jules mentioned, he had been at that nonprofit 2 years prior. So when he came back, even though we were kind of the new kids, he was placed as like a team leader right off the bat because he did have that experience working for that organization and in that community. And then I was very new and green, so I got placed on his team. But it was definitely a grassroots organization, and it wasn't, a USAID or one of those large NGOs. So it wasn't as structured as something like that. But it did have, a leadership team and proper different projects and things you could choose to work on. And yeah, it was a really great experience. And I think that, as Jules mentioned, that was one of the reasons our relationship was so strong from the beginning, is because when you have that experience with a group of people where you're going to a foreign country and you're helping out and you're, living together, working together, eating together, hanging out together, it's just you're bonded with these people, like they become your family. And it was an amazing experience. So yeah, we're really lucky that because if we had just met when we were backpacking, maybe in a hostel or something, it would have been like two ships passing in the night, like you say hi, you meet, you have fun, and then it's like, okay, go on your separate ways because, you have your own itinerary you want to get to. But when you're working in this nonprofit and you're together for months on end, it really builds like a really strong foundation for a relationship.
So with these non-profit organisation things, right? So with that, are you there for a dedicated amount of time, or is it just a case of you're there as long as you want to be?
Yeah, with this organization, it was pretty flexible. So I had gone back knowing that I was going to be there for at least 6 months because I'd done 6 months previously. And I felt like that was a good amount of time to really be able to put in some solid work. And so I had gone back thinking that, but really it was pretty flexible. Like people came for a week, 2 weeks. It's kind of like the minimum that we would prefer. But it really, it was a bit of I don't know, a bit all over the place sometimes.
Yeah, I think 2 weeks was the minimum, but it was obviously encouraged to do it longer because if anybody's thinking about volunteering abroad, the longer you can commit to a project, the more results you'll see and the more you'll be able to contribute. So I definitely recommend. I was supposed to be there for 2 months. And then when Jules and I got together, I kept extending it by a couple weeks and extending it. And then, of course, I ended up being there for 6 months as well.
Perfect.
Sorry, James. We're just going to shut our window real quick.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
We've got some birds chirping.
Yeah, I can hear them. It's a great sound effect.
Yeah. No, it's really nice and peaceful, but I can hear them through the mic as well. Okay. Yeah.
No, that's fine. So, you were talking about starting the blog and things like that. So, when you initially started your blog up, how did that discussion come about? Who picked the name,
It was a pretty mutual conversation again. Like we both have a lot of the same interests, and so a lot of our conversations are very easygoing. It's just, I think maybe Christine first brought up the blog, but I'm not sure. We both had our own separate blogs per se that we were doing to keep friends and family updated on our travels, and this was sort of before blogging became a lot more of definitely before it became like a real profession, and definitely before it became more of it was more sort of hobby. So I think I had a blog spot or something. What did you have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I had like a free WordPress
Yeah,
one.
something like that. So we were keeping our friends and family updated, and so we were already writing. We were both taking photos, and then I think it was maybe Christine who had the idea to start the blog because I never really thought about like a blog, actually like a website. And so, yeah, we started looking at that, and the name sort of came about from, actually came from a trip that we were taking in the Amazon at the time. We were on a little boat, and we were canoeing at about 3 o'clock in the morning along the river, trying to find caiman. And so it's pitch black, couldn't see an absolute thing around us. We're just floating on this boat and just occasionally there was a spotlight. You can just see these two red eyes in the distance, just sort of glinting in the distance, and then they would just slowly like pop back down, and he'd be like, "Oh, there's a caiman, there's a caiman." And we're so focused on looking ahead, and then I looked up.
I'm not going to lie, right? But if that was me, sorry, but I'd have been shitting myself.
Yeah. Well,
we were nervous.
We were nervous, so we were like, just and the thing is, because it was so dark, we couldn't see an absolute thing, and so we're looking ahead, and he kept like shining lights, and you see these two red dots, and sometimes you see multiple ones, and then they just sink down, and then your boat 2 seconds later is like skimming over where they were. And we were so focused, and then at one stage I sort of put my head back, and because there was just no light pollution at all, there was so many stars up in the sky, and so I wrote a blog article called like a personal one called "Don't Forget to Look Up," and that was kind of like an idea that we had in our head, and then I think "Don't Forget to Move" just kind of evolved from that. So that's how we got the name. And yeah, I guess we like to think of it as more than just travel. It's sort of like "Don't Forget to Move" has always been an idea about don't forget to move yourself physically with travel, but also like, travel is very transformative as well. So don't forget to move your mind, your train of thought, open your mind a little bit. So yeah, it's kind of got like a couple of different meanings for us.
Yeah. So we're talking now about opening up your mind and keeping yourself active and that kind of thing. So for you guys, as we were kind of speaking about before we started recording, this is such a change for people like yourselves who, for the last couple of years, all you've known is traveling and being out. And constantly moving. It goes with your name. Don't forget to move. You're constantly on the go, constantly, taking in other stuff around you. How has this affected you guys? So, you are now confined to one area. How has that had an impact with you?
So we were pretty lucky in that the beginning of this year, pretty much right after New Year's, we took a van road trip to Canada and traveled around Canada for 2.5 months and did some house sitting and where it was in our van and snowboarding and skiing and everything like that, which was amazing. And then we came back to the Bay Area and pretty much 3 days later, we were in full lockdown. All of our work trips were canceled. All of our upcoming plans were canceled really quickly. And so we were just really grateful that we got that great adventure travel in at the beginning of the year before all this happened. But yeah, it's been pretty challenging. I think the biggest takeaway has just been how grateful we have to be that we had those experiences and took advantage of that ability to move around as much as we did when we could, because nobody saw this coming. And it was just, it's just a complete 180 to our normal lifestyle. So yeah, we are getting pretty antsy, hoping that in the autumn we'll be able to start traveling again. But we're for the good of everybody, we're just going to stay home and wait this thing out pretty much.
And I don't think there's really anything else that we can do, as it stands just now.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and everyone I've spoken to, I've been asking them, they've been asking me, what do you think is going to be the next step going forward? How do you think travel's going to change? And nobody knows the answer, but it's interesting to get everyone's, perception on what they think is going to be different. So, I've had travel couples on that only go through cruises. I've had travel couples, that work full time, but also, they like to travel, they live for their holidays kind of thing, so they book like a month off at a time. So it's going to impact everyone, whether you're full-time travel, whether it's, just a holiday, how long are we going to be doing the social distancing for?
Yeah.
It's just, it's so unknown right now that nobody really knows the answers.
Yeah, I think really what it's going to come down to is it's going to be very specific on the region of the world, because everybody's dealt with coronavirus differently and everybody has come out of it differently. So the US is still very much one of the higher infection rate countries. It's such a massive country as well.
Yeah.
And so that I think that how the US tackles it is going to be very different to say how Oceania or Southeast Asia or parts of Europe travel the travel is affected. So I think like with the US, I think domestic travel is going to be really big over the next probably 12 months until international travel starts to pick up again.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're already starting to see a little bit of that in some places starting to loosen up a little bit. They're not really sort of going hard on travel campaigns. We certainly haven't been contacted about a lot of stuff still, but we do have some plans that were postponed because of coronavirus. We're starting to have those discussions with those companies again at the moment about when we
Awesome.
might be available. And so, that could be something that happens in July or maybe August. But in regards to international travel, that I feel like is a little bit further away. So we've also had some conversations. Actually, we've got some partnerships with Helsinki, and that I feel like probably won't happen until at least the end of the year, if not early next year. So yeah, so really, I guess it really depends. US travel, I think US to US might be opening up. I know Australia, New Zealand, they're sort of creating a little bit of a bubble, so anyone who's there can sort of move around a bit more. But
Yeah.
I would expect to see in the next couple of months, maybe depending, everybody's predicting this second wave. So I think depending on how hard that hits, it'll be interesting to see how that affects domestic travel in the US. But maybe the next 2 months to 3 months, we might see a bit more.
Yeah, here's hoping anyway.
Yeah.
So let's talk about about you guys a bit more. So growing up, was travel always something that was on your radar? Was that something that you wanted to do individually, or is it something you just kind of fell into?
Yeah, I was pretty lucky in that my parents are pretty like adventurous and were interested in travel, and so I think that kind of rubbed off of my brother and me, who are both travelers as well. So we did used to take like spontaneous road trips when we had like a week off of school and just choose a direction and go and have no plans, which is pretty much how I travel now, and Jules as well. And so we're used to being just kind of spontaneous travelers and not have anything booked and just figure it out as we go, which we really love to travel. That's like our preferred travel style. So I definitely think I got that from my parents. And then I was really lucky in that they took us on a couple of international trips when I was in high school, which was incredible. And pretty much after that, I was like, this is what I want to do. All I want to do is travel. So when I went to college, I studied global studies because that felt the most travel related. And then I studied abroad in Spain when I was a junior, which was also an incredible experience because that was the first time I pretty much just went by myself without family and friends. It was with a program, but just by myself and,
So how good's
experience
your
new country.
Spanish?
It goes up and down. It's good. We traveled in Central America and Latin America and South America a lot. So we've, gotten pretty conversational. I wouldn't say we're fluent, but pretty close. But then we spent so much time in Asia that we stopped using our Spanish and it got kind of rusty. But we
Yeah.
just got married in Mexico in November, and we were both surprised how quickly it all came back and we were able to chat with locals and everything. So I think it's pretty good, but
Yeah, it's pretty good.
need to brush up on it a little bit probably.
And see when so do you speak any other languages other than Spanish?
Just Spanish and English,
Yeah, and
sadly,
Australian.
and
A little
Australian.
bit of
I
Australian.
speak a little Australian. I'm not fluent.
So see when
Yeah.
you are in and around each other, or if you, for example, you're in the house now, would you sit and speak Spanish to each other just to keep yourselves ticking over?
No, we've had periods of time where we've tried to do that. So maybe when we're cooking or but it's just we get lazy. I mean, we do live in California, and so there is a large Hispanic community in California. So we do have opportunities every now and then. There's a lot of Mexican food, and there's a lot of great taquerias and Mexican restaurants and supermarkets and things. So when we go to our local one, which is just around the corner, we always make a habit of speaking with them in Spanish and chatting with people in Spanish. But yeah, it's pretty. We could do more, but we probably, yeah, I don't know. I think we're at that stage where we're a little bit complacent because our Spanish is good enough to to do everything that we need to do. Like as Christine said, when we went down to Mexico, it'd been the first time that we were in a Spanish-speaking country for quite a while, and within a couple of days, we were back to pretty much being exactly how we were. And there's sort of no limit on what we can do. So we like to get to the next level would take like a lot of work, and
Yeah, we're lazy.
we just don't need to do it.
So don't forget to move. The blog itself, as you can see on your Instagram and the blog itself, it's an award-winning blog. So how do you take your blog from just the average, everybody, any traveller, and take it to that, that level? What sets your blog out from everyone else?
I think that the key difference is looking at your blog like a business and understanding the intricacies of like what it means to have an online site and understanding SEO and understanding how you can make revenue from it and working towards that. I think that's the biggest difference. So the blog, when we first started, it was very much just a hobby. And when we thought this could be a fun way to get some free hotel stays, or we weren't really looking at it like an opportunity to make a full-time living. And because back in 2013, there wasn't actually a lot of information about, it's not like now, like if you start a blog, there's online courses and there's
Yeah.
Facebook groups and there's so much information out there. There's blogs about how to start a blog. And back then there just wasn't any of that. So we were pretty much just flying by the seat of our pants. We were putting up stuff. We were learning little bit by little bit how to grow the blog, but really it was very much sort of in the early stages of growing blogs. And then we went to a travel blogging conference at the end of 2015 and we met other travel bloggers. We learned about affiliate marketing and we learned about sort of other aspects of how to make money. And yeah, it kind of just opened up our eyes as to the opportunity and the potential that we had sitting on this site. We were getting good traffic.
Yeah.
We had a bit of a social media following. And then really we just sort of decided to, in 2016, to pull the pin on a lot of the other things we were doing and just start focusing on the blog. And yeah, just kind of grew from there and just continued learning about, how to get pages to rank, ad revenue through page views and yeah, better incorporating affiliate marketing. And we really worked on our skill and our craft and started working on video. And also we improved our photography a lot. So we started getting work with brands to create content as part of our collaborations and partnerships.
Mm-hmm.
So that helped. And that's probably one of our bigger sort of revenue streams for the blog is working with brands, creating content like photo and video and social media stories and things like that. So yeah, it's just going to be a bit of a progression. And each year it grows more and more, which is good. Probably not this year, unfortunately, but other than that, it's been growing each year, which is good. And we're sort of branched off into other opportunities. Like we dabbled in the ebooks. We wrote an ebook for how to travel to Cuba when Cuba was sort of at its peak, and that did really well.
Wow.
Yeah, just little things here and there.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, how did that feel when you got to that stage? Your work is now award winning. If that was an actor, for example, and they won an Oscar, they would define that as a career defining moment. How does that register with you guys? Your blog is award winning.
It's really nice. It takes, as Jules mentioned, a lot of work. I think people don't realize. I mean, I'm sure this is true with any career and any business, but there's so much stuff you have to do behind the scenes. I think a lot of people kind of think it's just, okay, travel to the place, take photos, write notes, write an article, put it online, and everybody's going to read it. But that is just like one fraction of what you have to do to get your blog that kind of recognition. And yeah, I would just recommend to anybody that wants to start a travel blog is really decide beforehand what you want out of it, because the difference in the amount of time it takes for just like a hobby blog and just like a fun blog to put up, information for your family and friends versus to get to that
100%.
not even like full time, but even like part time income,
Even just to make any money.
it's a huge time commitment, and it's probably honestly, if you just want money, it's not the best job. Like there's many other ways to make money online, but if you are passionate about travel and photography and writing, then it's a really cool job. And we have gotten so many experiences that we would have never had just as like, regular travelers.
Yeah.
So and yeah, to win the award and to have that recognition was really special for us, because we've had our blog for so long and we've worked on it so hard. To get to that level is just, it's a nice little perk, because I'm sure this is true with a lot of entrepreneurs, but you kind of set these little milestones, and then once you reach that, you're like, okay, I want to get to the next thing and the next thing, and
Absolutely.
you don't really take the time to step back and say, wow, look how far I've come. I've created this thing out of scratch, because you're always looking and comparing with other people who are like, they have 1 million followers and you want to get to
Yep.
that. Yeah. So, I mean, true for podcasting, true for pretty much any business, I would
Mm-hmm.
say. So to force ourselves to take a step back and be like, okay, we're doing a good job and we need to recognize that and celebrate that was, yeah, a cool moment for us.
Yeah, because it really was like a transition of we were blogging as hobby, then we were blogging, which was sort of bringing us nothing, but just something to do. And then it was the next part was we were blogging and we were getting free stuff, but you can't obviously live on free things. So we were getting free trips, and that was a cool concept for us. Is we were getting free hotel stay, and then it was like, well, actually, it started like a free hostel stay, like $8.
Yeah.
And then it was a free hotel, and then it was free trips with airfares and stuff. And then it got to the point where we're actually getting paid, like on top of the free trip, we're actually getting paid for these trips as well,
Awesome.
with all our expenses covered. And so, like, it was a progression, definitely. And it's, we're at the point now where we can be like, yeah, we've done a good job. And there's definitely more we can do. And we're definitely not resting on our laurels, but it has been a slow but fun and enjoyable progression. And in the meantime, like, we could have amped it up a lot quicker than we probably have. Like, we've also been doing a lot of things on the side. So when we started the blog in 2013, that was nearing the end of 2 years of backpacking through Latin America. The next year, I went back to teaching in Australia. Christine came over to Australia for a year on the working holiday visa. We sort of worked on it still part time. 2015, we went and spent 7 months working in another volunteer organization in the Philippines. We also started our masters in international development. And so, like, for a long time, we were doing a lot of things. We were traveling, we were studying part time our masters, which we only finished a couple of years ago, and doing the blog and doing like whatever community development work. So it was never our full 100% focus until probably maybe 2018 when we'd finally finished our masters, we'd finally finished all the nonprofit work. We're taking a little break from that. So it's really only been 2 years that we've been like making a full-time income because we've been working on it full time.
And this is something I've always wanted. I've always got it down as a question, but somehow I just never get to it, especially for travel couples. So when you start monetizing and when you start, getting involved with all these different, promotions and things like that, do you ever feel that it takes away from the experience of traveling? Does it ever get in the way? Do you ever find yourself resenting or not enjoying the trip as much because of what you have to do when you're there and it's not just an authentic travel experience?
Yes, I would say
Yeah, definitely.
definitely. It not necessarily when we get paid, but just in general, because we can always be putting out content. And now with Instagram, it's like you can always be posting, you can always be doing stories. And there's this content creator burnout where you just feel this pressure to always be improving your content and just put out so much content that when we do visit a place, we really have to make a conscious effort to put down the camera and to experience it just with our own eyes first and just enjoy it as a regular traveler rather than show up to the place and be like, okay, how can I, make this into a great Instagram shot, or what kind of video could we make out of this? And we definitely have to be conscious about that because that's, it's your job, and it's fun to do that. It's fun to
Yeah.
think of creative camera angles and everything like that. But we're travelers first and foremost, and we want to be able to enjoy things as travelers. So yeah, it's definitely a balance. But I would also say that before we started the blog, we were traveling, and which is great, but we love traveling, but we were traveling like 10 months at a time, 11 months out of the year. And at a certain point, you just kind of feel a bit like listless, I guess. You're kind of just like, okay, here's another place, here's another place. That sounds so like I'm
Yeah.
being ungrateful for traveling, but
No.
it having the
Well, you don't have as
blog.
much of a purpose.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
you're just traveling without a purpose.
Right.
Yeah.
Having the blog gave us a purpose, and it gave us something productive to work towards. So I feel like it really helped me at least, feel, yeah, a sense of purpose and say, okay, what can I take out of this experience and make it so that other people can be inspired or have, helpful information about this location. And so it felt good to take those experiences and put something positive out into the world with it.
Brilliant. So outside of photography and the blog, and as you said there, you like to take a bit of time for yourselves. What other passions do you guys have?
Apart from
Do we have
working,
other
I don't
passions?
know. Apart from working online, Yeah, I mean, like when I'm near the beach, I surf a lot. So a big part of us living in Bali is to sort of wind down our time. We get probably less opportunities, partnerships, and things like that while working in Bali. But we also the cost of living is so much less. So it's
Mhm.
our time to sort of refresh and reset, which is what we'd usually be doing now. So it's kind of like no different, I guess.
Hmm.
And so I'm surfing every day. Christine, you enjoy yoga and things like that.
Yeah, when we go to Bali, I have my yoga studio that I go to, and then I try to do that on the road as well. And yeah, just keeping fit and all that. And I do like painting and drawing, but that's like just personal. And yeah, just little things like that, reading and hanging out with friends was something we really enjoyed pre-COVID. So that's something that we really like to focus on. That's why we spend so much time in Bali, because we do have a friend group that lives there either part of the year or full time. So it's nice having that community to go back to every
Yeah.
year. So yeah, just a little bit of everything pretty much.
Yeah, we've definitely sort of because we've spent so much time traveling and bouncing around, and as Christine said, not necessarily just traveling without a purpose, but like traveling just for the sake of traveling sometimes.
Yeah.
And so now we try to sort of use three main hubs. So San Francisco, like the Bay Area, is where Christine's from. We spend time there the year. Bali, and then we always get back to visit Australia once or twice a year as well. So they're kind of our three rotating spots, and then we do trips from there. So from when we're in San Francisco, we'll do trips pretty much anywhere. In Asia, probably less opportunities. In Australia, we're kind of more there just to chill out a bit. So yeah, we
Yeah.
kind of just use those three places and just rotate throughout the year.
Yeah, I'm kind of like that in my house as well. Like, I spend time in the office. I've got the living room. I've got bedroom. So I get what you mean. Like, it's so similar there. You've got Bali, Australia, San Francisco. I've got living room, office, bedroom.
You can set them up like different themes.
So talking about not being able to get out and about just now. All right. So right now you might be regretting that you're not in Bali and you're in. He's in Australia or San Francisco right now? San Francisco, you said, isn't it?
We're in San Francisco now, yeah.
Yeah. So talking of regrets, what do you have any travel regrets at all? Anything that you wish you had done and you've never got back to?
Not really. I don't really. It's not that like I don't agree or believe in regrets. I just don't tend to hold on to them that much. I mean, none that really come to mind. There might be some things that I think like, I wish I'd done that. Maybe Christine will remember some, but usually I don't tend to. I don't know. I kind of feel like life always works out the way it's supposed to be. And if you,
Okay.
yeah, I don't know.
We pretty much try to live our travels to the fullest. So we,
Yeah,
to the detriment of our, health, sometimes we push ourselves and we try to do every single thing and, try to see everything. And yeah, so I'd say, not really regrets, but there are definitely a couple more places on our bucket list that we want to see. So hopefully we travel opens up again eventually at some point so we can just continue traveling. I would say maybe just a regret would be not being like taking it for granted pretty much.
mm,
We
Okay.
were, we were really lucky with our lives of full-time travel. I mean, we work hard for it, but we are also very lucky. And we've spent so much time traveling that we kind of just got used to the idea of being able to go wherever we want. And like,
Yeah.
oh, look, we can spend a few months in Bali and then we can go in our van and road trip around and,
yeah, seriously.
just move. We definitely took it for granted, the freedom of moving
Yeah.
and being able to, just travel. So I think when this all picks up again, we'll definitely be just, more grateful that just the opportunity to go somewhere and see something new and experience new culture, because there's really nothing better than that for us.
Okay. So there is a couple of straight out questions that I do like to ask. All right, everybody I speak to.
Hmm.
So the first one of them is, what is your most breathtaking moment while traveling?
Breathtaking.
So many.
Um,
I would say, do you want me to go first?
yeah, you go first.
Okay, so this is probably kind of cliche, but so when we were in Lombok, which is an island next to Bali, it's a huge island that's really like undiscovered and has a fraction of the tourists and than in Bali. And we went to this beautiful waterfall that was huge. We took a motorbike out there and we had a guide show us through, and it is literally just this massive rock wall of lush
Oh yeah, that
greenery
was very
that
nice.
has these huge like 7 foot tall ferns and this water like blowing down, and you can climb up and stand basically in the waterfall, and it's
Whoa.
probably the biggest waterfall I've ever seen. So that's kind of cliche because waterfalls are like everybody loves waterfalls, but it was incredible. And I think just the fact that there were no other tourists there and we just basically had the place to ourselves, so that was a very cool moment.
Yeah, that was a great waterfall.
Yeah.
And what is the most terrifying moment you've had while travelling? So there must be a moment where you have been scared.
Yeah, we haven't had that many. We haven't had that many bad things happen to us. No, I wouldn't say necessarily terrifying, but when Christine had dengue fever in Cuba, that was a little bit scary, just because seeing her that unwell was, yeah, was a little bit,
It was scary.
yeah,
We
it
were
was a
in the
bit scary.
hospital for 5 days,
Yeah.
and the doctor spoke some English, and we obviously spoke Spanish, but there was definitely some sort of miscommunication.
Yeah.
And he was giving me information about like my platelet levels and everything, and they made it sound like I was basically dying. And this
Oh,
was like
no.
at the height of Zika virus scare, where we didn't really know much about it. So I basically convinced myself that I was going to die of the Zika virus. So it was pretty scary being at this old, like kind of broken down Cuban hospital that was pretty much looked like it was abandoned and the lights were flickering.
Mm.
But luckily, Jules was able to rent the hospital bed next to mine. And so we got to stay in the hospital together for 5 days. But yeah, that was a little bit of a scary experience.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
can only imagine.
I would say mine. Actually, I thought of a good breathtaking moment, and they're kind of both from the same spot.
Go for it.
The not a terrifying, well, a little bit of a terrifying moment was when I got bit by a dog in Little Corn Island in
Mm.
Nicaragua, and because rabies is quite prevalent in Central America. Well, not prevalent, but like it's around. And
Mhm.
this dog looked rabid and it bit me on the back. Little shit bit me on the back of the leg. I was walking past the house and it snuck up behind me and nipped me on the calf and like drew blood, like actually got me. And I sort of chased it back into the house, and then it came running at the fence, and like its teeth were bled, and I was like, "Oh damn!" And so I went to, so I got a little bit nervous about that because with rabies you don't really get much time to
Yeah.
before you're done for. And so I went to like this little clinic thing, and they assured me that there was no rabies on the island. There hadn't been in a while, and but it was a little bit of a worrying moment as I basically sort of had to wait out the next week, thinking, "Am I going to die, or am I going to be okay?" Um, but then also it reminded me of a really good moment, which was when we were on the Corn Islands. We actually spent a couple of weeks there. This was back in 2013. The Corn
Mhm.
Islands, I'm not sure how well developed they are now, but they were extremely underdeveloped back then, especially Little Corn. And we just had a great time hanging out like on this small island in the middle of the Caribbean with white sand, beautiful turquoise beaches. We were eating fish, like catching fish, and we were buying fish from the locals and making fish sandwiches every day, and
Yeah.
like just living it, kicking it in a hammock. And we went and did a beach bonfire one night down on a beach, and we heard this thing rustling in the distance. We had a couple of friends, and we're cooking up on this fire, and it's pitch black, and the stars are out, and we hear this something rustling in the distance, and we go to investigate, and we find this tortoise that was probably honestly like about 6 feet wide. It was absolutely huge, and it was parked in the middle of the beach. There was no one there, and it was digging a huge hole and laying eggs. And we just kind of like watched this tortoise for hours lay its eggs and then eventually take off back into the ocean. And when we told locals about it, they said it was just an extremely rare thing for us to have found. And yeah, it was
Hmm.
like a really, really amazing like nature moment.
Hmm.
We When I was on honeymoon in Jamaica, there was a turtle that came up onto the beach and laid its eggs. But what they done is they cordoned the whole bit of the beach off,
Oh, that's cool.
so that you weren't allowed near it. Like you weren't even allowed to go and take up like pictures of it or anything. Like it was just that was at space getaway kind of thing. Eh?
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, that's great.
It's, it's really good. But we never seen any of it. We just kind of seen it cordoned off kind of thing.
Yeah.
But it was brilliant. But to see that firsthand, that's the kind of stuff that you see on like a David Attenborough program kind of thing.
Yeah, it was amazing. Like it was just like pitch black, but there's only about 4 or 5 of us out there, and we just sort of sat back and just like we kind of left it do its thing, and maybe every half an hour we just to check to see how it was doing, and just had a little look, and kept our distance obviously, and yeah, eventually it just finished up, and it was there for hours probably laying eggs, and eventually it took off, and we got to see that moment. We just sort of stood back on the beach and we watched it slowly waddle over to the water and take off, and yeah, it was a very, very cool moment.
Awesome. So how many countries have you guys travelled to?
We have not counted. We tend to not. Yeah, some people are really into counting their countries, but we haven't done that. And we also tend to travel a bit slower. So rather than go to a bunch of countries, we prefer to go to just a few and spend more time in each country. So probably I don't know, like 50 or something.
Yeah, probably in the 40s or like early 50s. But yeah, as Christine said, we've never really been too concerned about sort of counting countries, and the countries that we feel most connected with are the ones that we spend a lot of time in. We much prefer to travel like in one country for 4 weeks than to try and do 4 countries in 4 weeks.
And so that's it.
Yeah, so we've always found that, like, because we like to travel slow, because we've had that time, we've always found that the best way to connect with the community, to learn about the culture, to get off the beaten path and find those hidden gems, is to actually spend some quality time there, because otherwise you only get time to do the main things that everybody else does, and you don't have the opportunity to take an extra day off and do something else, or take a few days and go out to a different town or city that no one usually goes to. So yeah, and so that's why some of our favorite countries are the Philippines, where we spent 7 months. Mexico, we probably spent over a year in Mexico over the last couple of years. Spent a year in Peru, like a lot of time in Colombia, and so like they're the ones that we spent the most time in are usually always our favorites.
And where's next for you guys? So say that there's no restrictions in place, you're able to go freely. Where's the next adventure? What's next for you guys?
Well, apart from going back to Australia, because it's been a while since I've been there, it's been a year since I've been home now. So apart from there, I don't know. We just like anywhere. That's how I feel at the moment.
We'll probably do some domestic travel first. So maybe a few places in California, and then maybe some parks, or probably road trip around for a little bit in the US. And then,
Greece.
Go Greece. Yeah,
Greece. We keep saying to Greece. Yeah,
Greece would be amazing. Pretty much anywhere with water that we can has a beautiful ocean, nice beaches. We'll go there.
I do the Mediterranean, so Croatia, Italy, Greece. We've done Italy. Christine's done it a few times. We did it back in 2016 and had a great time. Mostly just did the cities. So I'd love to go back to Italy. I'd love to do Croatia. We've never done Greece.
If you guys are looking for heat, Scotland is, we're based. We've got so much.
We've got some good friends from Scotland. We haven't done a ton of the UK. Mostly just.
Well, if you're ever in Scotland, hit me up and we can go for a meal or something like that.
Absolutely.
Definitely give me some good places to go.
Yeah, no, we'd love to go to Scotland, Ireland, like get out a little bit more. We haven't done a ton of Europe. Well, Christine, you've done a bit more than me. But 2016, we spent most of the year, like maybe 7 or 8 months in Europe, some different spots.
Yeah,
definitely got some.
I think a lot of people get to Europe, but it's getting over the water again to the UK. That's the stumbling block.
We've only done London
and Bristol.
Right,
so the next part I would normally go to is a question from my daughter.
Hi guys, thanks for listening to the Static Traveller. And now it's time for Ainsley's question.
So before I speak to anybody, she always gives me a question for the travellers that I speak to.
Alrighty.
So what she's asking is, where's your favourite place that you've visited?
Oh boy, so many. This is such a hard question. So I will say the Philippines because we have spent a lot of time there. We spent 7 months there working at a nonprofit, and then we traveled around. We bought a motorbike and traveled around by motorbike. And the islands there are stunning. I mean, there's over 7,000 islands, so they're really beautiful. And there's so many that are undeveloped and pristine and just gorgeous. And I feel like you don't see that bright blue water pretty much anywhere except for the Philippines. And the people are so friendly and
Yeah,
hospitable.
super friendly.
Yeah, so I would have to go with the Philippines.
Yeah, the Philippines is definitely up there. I mean, like I said before, the places that we spent the most time are always the most special in our hearts. So Mexico is a very special spot for us. We've spent multiple trips there, multiple months over the years, and then we got married
Yeah.
there last year. So that's a really special spot for us. Peru, spent such a long time there, and yeah, Cuba. Cuba's probably one of our favorites as well, just because it's so unique. We had the opportunity to go there for about almost 4 weeks in 2013. So this was way before it started to open up to the US. I know it's gone back the other way again, but this is before it started to open up to the US. So it was still quite closed off. So we had a
Yeah.
really good opportunity and we were really budget backpacking then. So we really found all the little secret nooks and crannies of Cuba and how to travel it super authentically, which is why we ended up writing the Authentic Cuba Travel Guide. And so that was always a special spot for us. And then we had the opportunity to go back there again in 2016 for about 3 weeks. So we got a really good slice of that country as well. So yeah, Cuba, Philippines, Thailand has always been a favorite because we just love the people and love the food, and then
It's so good.
Bali as well. So we haven't done a ton of Indonesia travel. We spent quite a lot of months living in Bali, and we've done some travel in Lombok, but that's about it for Indonesia. But yeah,
I think
Bali's
Bali's just the hot spot now, isn't it? It's just
Hmm.
everyone, you know, everyone who's anyone is going to Bali, and that's kind of the way that's the way it kind of it goes from what I can see, when you look at all these, social media outlets like Instagram, Facebook, and even like Twitter and things like that for any traveller, everyone seems to be pushing Bali, 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 Bali.
Yeah, it's blown up a lot in the last couple of years. We went there. We first went there in 2015, and it wasn't undiscovered by any means, but it was
Yeah,
definitely not the place that it is now. And so we spent the last few years living like 3 to 4 months out of the year there, and yeah, it's getting busier and busier, and that brings both its challenges and its advantages, I guess. So
Yeah,
yeah,
Bali's interesting because if I was going to recommend just like a 1 or 2 week vacation to somebody to go in Asia, I wouldn't recommend Bali. I mean, it's beautiful and they have a lot of cool things. People love like the rice terraces and the swings and the photo ops or whatever. And if you want
yeah,
to get great photos, it's perfect. But if you want to, or if you're just having a vacation and you want to see like really nice beaches and kind of get off the beaten track and get away from other tourists, I would recommend other locations, maybe some other quieter islands in Southeast Asia. But for us, we love Bali because it's such a cool place to live. And it has a really great digital nomad community, tons of cool co-working spaces, great cafes, really good food, great bars. So in terms of like living there, like a day-to-day lifestyle, it's perfect. But
yeah.
it's funny because now it's so crowded, everybody wants to go there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it if you only have like a couple weeks vacation.
no, it's got like 4 or 5 sort of main spots to go to, and there's not a lot of the beaches aren't great. There's not a lot of great beaches to go to, and it's
Mhm.
very crowded. Most people fly into Kuta. Kuta's like a bit of a hole. It's very touristy, and then sort of as you work your way down, it becomes sort of less touristy and more long-term expat digital nomad type community. But even that's still very busy. And yeah, I don't know. It's nice. Like Ubud's really nice, and that's different. It's got a couple of different sort of subsections inside the small island, but there's definitely nicer places to visit if you just want to chill. Like Thailand, it's got a lot more nice islands and things.
The nicer beaches, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
I can't wait to go to Thailand.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, Thailand's great. The food's so good. It's so
Yeah, the
cheap.
food's so good.
Well, I do Vietnam as well. A lot of people I spoke to picked up Vietnam, so I think that's on the list as well. definitely.
Yeah, we only spent about a week in Vietnam. We were crossing from we'd finished. We did quite a bit of time in Thailand, Cambodia, and then we crossed into Vietnam, and we spent only about a week there. And we flew across to the Philippines, and we were thinking we'd only be in the Philippines for about maybe 5 months or so, and then we were going to fly back to Vietnam and do more. And then we ended up spending 7 months there instead, and so we didn't get to go back to Vietnam. But yeah, definitely on the list to go back to, because even in the week that we were there, it was just had such a different energy, and yeah, great food as well, and a lot of cool things to see from all reports.
So the next part of the podcast is a thing I like to call story time. Okay, so this is where I like for you guys to take us on a journey. All right, so to tell us in detail about one place or adventure that you want to share with us, in as much detail as possible. So things that you have did, things that you ate, places you went, somewhere you think everyone should visit at least once in their life, kind of thing.
Oh, once again, so many places to choose from.
All right, no need to brag.
Well, if it's, I mean, like we keep going back to the Philippines. But the Philippines hasn't got very good food, so it's like the one. That's the one thing that works against the Philippines. It has amazing beaches. It has amazing places to see. Rice terraces, everything that you get in Southeast Asia. Amazing people, but the food sucks, and there's no real nice way to say it. Especially because we are vegetarians, 95% of the time, and we pretty much are vegetarians. When we travel, we might occasionally eat meat, if it's like a specialty dish or something. But the Philippines food sucks. So, story time.
Oh, so many good places to choose from.
I'd say one really good adventure trip that we had that is a good story is spending some time in northern Spain doing a road trip. This was back in 2016. And I mean, there's so many, I was also thinking the road trip in Estonia was also a cool one. I'll do Spain. So Spain, because we had a lot of great local experiences there. So Spain had always been a place that I had wanted to visit. And I was actually supposed to fly there originally back in 2012 when I first met Christine. So my plan was to spend 6 months at the volunteer organization, obviously before I met Christine. And then I had a flight from Lima in Peru to Spain. And I was going to spend another 6 months in Europe and then just sort of play it by ear. And after I met Christine, I actually ended up changing my flights, and Christine changed her flights, and here we are now 8 years later. So I had always sort of wanted to go to Spain and visit Europe, and I'd never been to Europe before. And so in 2016, we planned a trip to Europe. And so we ended up started in Madrid, and we rented a car for 3 weeks. We actually worked with a partner. And so we took a car and we did the northern Spain loop. So we went from Madrid up to the coast, across into sort of southern France, back through Andorra, and then down to Barcelona. And it was just such an amazing time to have a car and to have the freedom and just going from town to town. And we went from Madrid to Lyon. We went up to, can't think of the place now, but just stopping off at all the small towns along the way and just eating great food and just sort of being very immersed in the culture and just having the freedom of our own car, which was really cool. And we had a really great experience when we were in Bilbao. We have some friends from the Basque Country, and the Basque Country, for those that don't know, is a very, very sort of independent territory of Spain and has a very rich culture separate to Spain that is very, the language, Basque language has no origin or something like that.
Yeah, it's completely their culture, their language, everything is completely separate from Spanish, from Spanish customs and whatnot. And there's been a lot of controversy about some people wanting the Basque Country to become independent, politically independent, which is, it's a bit of a controversial topic, but yeah, it's really cool because when you go up there, they just consider themselves Basque. They don't consider themselves Spanish. So it's almost like a whole other world when you go up there. So we were really lucky because our friend is Basque. So we kind of had an in. So we went there and we stayed with her family, and we got to go to her father's cooking club, which is this very old tradition that the men in the village will have a cooking club, and no women are allowed to come. No women can come into the kitchen. It's males only. And they cooked this gorgeous Basque lunch for us with this fresh caught fish and just everything like drizzled in the best olive oil that you will ever taste, and like freshly picked huge heirloom tomatoes, and just everything was so gourmet and so tasty. And yeah, just being able to have that experience of seeing what that cultural experience of being at one of those cooking clubs was really awesome. And the coastline up there is gorgeous. So yeah, it's beautiful.
Yeah, and we had the opportunity to go into the mountains as well to like an original cider farmhouse type place, and that was really cool. It was this huge sort of shed barn type thing with these massive drums of cider just all lined along the wall, and these long tables, and just everything was a mess, and everyone was just sitting at these communal tables, and they would bring you just really simple, fresh, delicious bread, and you would just be eating bread with crumbs everywhere, and you'd go up to the huge barrels, and you just, you didn't pay. I don't know, I can't even remember how you paid. I don't think you paid for you definitely didn't pay per drink. I'm pretty sure you just paid like per head, or like,
yeah, it was like unlimited
just
cider.
Unlimited. You just got a cup, and these huge barrels had these taps on them, and you have to open up the tap and then hold your cup like 6 feet away to catch the cider, and so it's splashing everywhere. There's so much of it, it's just going everywhere, and it doesn't matter. And then you got one arm on the tap and one arm 6 foot away, like holding your cup down at the bottom, catching the cider. You shut it off, you drink it, you go and grab a handful of bread, and I don't know, it was just like everybody's walking around with mullets, and
it's such natural cider that it doesn't taste sweet at all. It tastes almost like olives, like kind of vinegary. It's like very unprocessed, no chemicals, very natural, and it's so acidic that because it splashes down on the ground from the tap that's so high up, there's like divots in the ground from where the cider has eaten away from the stone floor. So yeah, you probably don't want to drink too much of it. I don't know what it would do to your stomach, but it was cool. It was like very locals only type cider house. So it was really cool to experience that too. So yeah, Northern Spain is amazing.
Yeah, it was really cool. And then we had that experience, that really great like traditional Basque experience there, and then we continued on and we did some south of France, which is cool. We got to see some really cool castles, and then we went through Andorra, which is a very random country to go to. And then so the couple that we hung out with in the Basque country with her family, so she's Basque, and the other guy is from Barcelona, so he's Catalan, which is like the other independent area of of Spain. So then we caught back up with them when we looped back around, and we ended up in a small place called Vic, and we got to see this very Catalonian tradition of the human castles that they make. I'm not sure if you've ever seen it. It's the first time I've ever seen it. It was insane. Yeah. They make these human towers, and they have all these people crammed in at the bottom, and they have a base of people, and 6 people will get on the top of this huge crowd, and then another 4 will climb up them and get on top of their shoulders, and another 2 will climb up and get on their shoulders, and then lastly there's like this 6-year-old featherweight kid who scrambles up all these people and ends up on the top, and they make these huge human towers. And that's it was a very, very interesting trip to be able to get involved with locals and a lot of local traditions, and they took us to all the best places to get the best tapas and the best pinchos, and it was really cool.
Yeah.
Wow. No, that sounds absolutely amazing. What was that?
I just knocked the mic.
I thought it was like a big drum or something going off.
Just our gong,
Yeah, it's our gong.
But it could have been a bird or something like that, I don't know.
Yeah, it sounds so loud when you hit the mic. It just like reverberates.
No, so honestly, thank you so much for taking us on that adventure. Most guys come on, it's that's the first time surprisingly we've had Spain. Nobody spoke about Spain before. Other than generally through chat kind of thing. But in terms of a story, it's good to hear that side of Spain because as a Brit, Spain's our first go to,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to holidays and that kind of thing. But it's more, it's not the Bilbaos, it's not it's not the, how do I say this, the elegant places of Spain. It's more the where can we go with the family kind of thing. How
Yeah.
can we have cheap and cheerful, good laugh kind of thing.
Yeah, there's definitely a few spots that the Brits like to get to, like those beaches. What are they like? Mallorca and
Yeah.
like those other ones. Yeah,
Mallorca,
Yeah.
Ibiza, the
Yeah.
Canary Islands.
but yeah, no, it was good. I mean, we've had like that's how a lot of our best experiences have been traveling. We've had road trips are a big part of the way we like to travel because we like to sort of have that freedom and flexibility to go our own way. Like we could have talked about so many other ones. Like we did a road trip through Estonia in the same year. The time that we spent in the Philippines on the motorbike was also a really great trip. Traveling from, in the Philippines, there's 7,000 islands, so it's not very conducive to a motorcycle trip. But we made it happen, and it was amazing. And so it came down to us taking this motorcycle from island to island, and then putting the motorcycle onto these tiny ferries and hopping it from island to island. And sometimes it would be like an official dock where we could ride up and I could ride the bike into the sort of like the hold area, take it across to an island, get off, keep cruising. Other times it would be a small little like single engine boat, and I'd have to pay some people around that were like hanging around the harbour
To
to
lift it up.
to lift the motorcycle and carry it through the water over our heads up to like sort of chest, stomach, waist water until we could like pop the motorcycle onto the boat. And then I have to, because a lot of these boats don't dock, like they just sort of docked on the sand and you'd have to get off and walk and wade in knee high water. So I'm like, we're carrying this motorcycle and I have to chop them out a little bit of money here and there. But yeah, it was a really fun way to travel and just, yeah,
See,
motorcycle
that's
is
the
the
kind
best
of
way.
adventure that I want. Like a proper like Top Gear kind of challenge kind of thing. This is, you've got to get from here to here. This is what you've got. You can only use this.
Yeah.
And that itself, that sounds like an amazing adventure to me, and that's something that's on my kind of bucket list. Is turn up to a country with a backpack and just see where it takes you, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And that's something that I really want to do. It's on my bucket list. Other than turn up at a hotel and get a couple of beers for the all you can, the all inclusive kind of thing.
Yeah.
I love hearing the kind of stories, just stuff that you never hear. You talk to your friends and that kind of thing, and how was your holiday? It was great, lay by the pool. Whereas like
Yeah.
10 minutes there speaking to you, it's like, oh yeah, we were in the middle of the Philippines and I had to pay this guy to lift my motorbike over my head, kind of thing.
Yeah.
Stay out to the water. And that's the kind of stories that everyone loves to hear.
Yeah, and that's that's the sort of that's always been our travel style. We've always looked for authentic experiences, and it is nice, to have those times where you can just relax and hang out by a pool, but you can do that anywhere. That's how we've always figured, and so having the opportunity to actually go and do something local and mingle with locals and do the get off that beaten path is really always been what we've like strove for, because that's the stories where you know you get like something happens or something goes wrong, and that's like been a big part of why we started the Not So Bon Voyage podcast as well, was because it was great to connect with travelers and it was great to hear those travel stories, but for us, like hearing the stories of when something went wrong, that was really you know the time that we heard personal growth or like some kind of like really development in people, like where they were challenged, where they had to overcome something difficult. And often we found that those stories were the ones that people enjoyed them telling the most, because unless you got like seriously injured, like the best stories are always the ones where things go wrong.
Yeah,
And so
absolutely.
from people being robbed at gunpoint, to being taken hostage, to having drinking with the Taliban, to like all the kind of crazy stories we've heard on the podcast so far. Like we had one guy come on and talk a lot about some experiences working as a journalist, and how we covered a lot of war zones. And so he had a lot of great stories about hanging out with the Taliban and having a gun pulled on him by the Russian mafia and being shot at in Kyrgyzstan and like all kinds of crazy things. And anything from that and to other stories we've covered on the podcast about. Actually, one of them was a friend of mine. A story that goes back to 2010 in Colombia when he got hogtied and kidnapped at gunpoint. Held for like ransom almost at gunpoint in Colombia in a hostel, and lots of crazy stories.
Well, I have listened to a couple of your episodes. So one of my favourite ones was the guy from the Traveller's Blueprint podcast, and it was just when he was
funny.
like, I woke up and there was just a random guy sleeping next to me.
That was really funny because his wife doesn't like it when he tells that story, so he's never told it on his podcast.
They definitely keep it a bit more PG.
So he came and told it on our podcast, and then he was like, "I haven't told my wife that I'm telling this yet." So hopefully they're still together and everything's fine.
I think it's all good.
But that was funny.
Right, so I've got a couple of questions from Instagram for you guys.
Shoot.
Just from from post that I put up earlier on. So let's have a look and see what we've got. What's the biggest storm that you guys have been caught up in?
Oh, like physical, like actual storm, like thunderstorm?
I don't know.
I feel like we've been pretty lucky with weather.
Yeah, we've been in a few earthquakes. There was the cyclone down in San Cristobal when we were living in a little apartment in southern Mexico in San Cristobal for 3 months back in 2013, and we got caught in, it was like Cyclone Barbara or something like that. It just rained for like 5 days straight and everything flooded.
Yeah, and there were like dead rats floating in the sewer in the gutter. It was just like full, like I don't even know how much rain, but it's just full flooding. Like we literally could not leave the house for I think like a week, and we were just stuck inside because it rained 24/7, and it was not fun.
Yeah, I can't think of any storms though. Like
it's
really bad ones.
Yeah.
But I can't think of like. I'd say that's about it.
Yeah.
So this one, I'm just going to read it as it is. Okay, so it's toilets, right? Squat or Western?
Whatever the country decides, I'm easy. I mean, we've done plenty of squat toilets in Southeast Asia.
I mean, obviously, I'd prefer Western, just being an American, I guess. But I mean, at this point, like very few toilets shock us anymore. We've seen some pretty gnarly ones, so we can pretty much do whatever needs to be done.
I mean, squat toilet's better for you. Like,
that's true.
It is better for your.
That's like the natural position, isn't it? Kind of thing. Yeah.
So.
Okay. Good question.
Let's have a look. What are you doing for your next birthday?
It's my birthday pretty soon, actually. It's my birthday in about a month, and at this rate, probably nothing.
Hopefully something.
Yeah, maybe something. We, probably get together with a couple of friends, maybe a small group, do a social distance birthday.
Yeah, these quarantine birthdays are tough. It's not a great time to have a birthday. But yeah, my birthday's in August. So hopefully, I mean, I usually like to do like a trip for my birthday. Like we've gone to Tahoe and gone river rafting and things like that. But it's probably not going to happen this year. So hopefully at least like a small celebration with friends. I think that's the most anybody can hope for right now.
Yeah, I mean, my wife was in April. My little girl is in like a week and a half. So, that's 2 we've had to go through. Mine's just December, so I'm hopefully, clear and dry by that point.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Go somewhere, but, we'll just wait and see.
Yeah.
I don't want to jinx it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, we'll go for one more. Your biggest travel influence. So who's been your biggest travel influence?
For me, I would probably say my grandparents, who when I was young used to travel a lot. And I didn't grow up traveling a lot. My first international trip wasn't until I was 21 when I went to Thailand for a few months. And yeah, so I didn't have a lot of international travel. But I remember when I was young, my grandparents used to always go off on cruises and they used to go traveling and bring back little fun souvenirs and things like that. And so I always had fun memories of them, bringing back postcards and all things like that. And so that was kind of my first insight into the traveling world. So I'd say probably my grandparents.
Okay.
I would probably have to say my parents. They really instilled the travel bug in me, and just their style of travel. Like so many times growing up, we would, get to a city and we'd find out the whole place is booked out because there's some big event in town, and they would always find a way to make it work. Like we've literally stayed at like the house of a concierge because there's no hotels left. So yeah, I would say just their ability to like make difficult travel situations work has inspired the way we travel. So yeah, I'd say my parents.
Awesome. So the final part of the podcast, all right, is where I would pit yous against each other, but also against other travel couples. All right.
Oh, okay.
So I have 10 questions. So one of you has to leave the room.
Okay.
The other one will answer the questions, and the one that comes back has to guess the correct answers.
Okay,
All
I'll
right.
leave the room because I need to go to the bathroom.
You won't have long because they're quick fire.
Okay, all right.
So
I'll just
not
wait
even
outside
on
the
to
building.
think. Oh, no, I'm sure you'll have time to go to the toilet. You'll be fine.
Okay, so it's just a
I'm
number one.
being dramatic. Right. You tell me when he's gone.
Okay, he's leaving right now. Okay, he's gone.
Right. Okay. So when you're traveling, what is your travel essential? So this is all these questions are about you.
Oh, personally?
Yep.
Okay, I would say Kindle. Like
Kindle.
Mhm.
Okay. What is your hometown, Christine?
Menlo Park.
Menlo.
Hmm.
Okay. Your favourite food?
Mexican.
Okay. Favourite country that you've been to?
Oh, well, I guess I have to go with the Philippines now because that's what I said before.
Okay. The best way for you to relax when you're traveling?
Oh, okay. I would say a massage or a spa day.
Okay. Your favourite song or artist?
Oh, this is so tough. Oh my goodness. Favorite song or artist? I'll go with Notorious B.I.G.
Okay. Favourite drink?
Oh gosh, favorite drink. I have to say white wine.
Okay. Favourite movie?
Favorite movie? I'll go with Wedding Crashers.
Okay. I like that one.
It's a good one.
Favourite TV show or season?
The Office.
Okay. And last of all, can you speak any other languages?
Spanish.
They should get that one. That one should be a get.
I hope so.
Right, bring them back in.
Okay, Jules, come in. You better get these right.
Okay, is he back? You
Yeah, he's
back?
putting his headphones on.
All right,
Okay.
here we go.
Right, I don't want to put pressure on you, right? But you guys are the fourth travel couple to take it on, right?
Okay.
Out of the four, Jules is the second male to attempt it.
Okay.
And the highest score right now, we've got a tie on 7 out of 10. All right, so we've got two guys
Oh,
at the top
boy.
and 7 out of 10.
All
That's
right.
good. Good for those people.
So, Jules, now these are all about Christine, okay?
Okay.
So you need to answer them as if you were talking about her, right?
Okay.
So when she's traveling, what is her travel must-have? What is her essential travel? What must she have with her?
Oh, what's must
He's
you-
looking at me like I'm going to give him a hint. I'm not.
What must you have with you?
Hmm.
Peanut butter?
Peanut butter. That's a good one. That's old
Is that-
school. peanut
Yeah,
butter.
that's
Is
old
that-
school.
Mm.
Is that your answer?
Well, she always has to have wine, but you can find that everywhere. So I'm trying to work out what she needs to have with her. Maybe a Kindle.
Oh, well done. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's her hometown?
Menlo Park.
Perfect. Her favourite type of food?
Favorite type of food? Mexican.
Oh, we're on a roll. Favourite country that she's travelled to?
Oh, I mean, we have the same favorites, but so it's hard. Philippines.
Yep. So when she's travelling, what is the way that she finds best to relax when she's travelling? What does she do to relax when she's travelling?
I'd say it'd be a combination of like reading by the pool or something, or like drinking wine by the pool or something like that.
That's a good one, but no.
No.
Oh, so close. She
What
said
is
like
it?
massage/spa day.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
This is where it usually starts to fall to pieces. So, right, what is her favourite song or artist? Right, I'll just say artist. Who's her favourite artist? Because that's the one she went with.
Oh. Yeah, this could be so many different people.
Such a big question.
Yeah, I know.
It's really hard.
Oh, I'm not going to get this right. We listen to a lot of the same music, but I don't know if I know who your current favorite artist is.
Stab in the dark. Go for it.
Lizzo.
No.
Who was it?
Notorious B.I.G.
Yeah, okay. That's like an old school one. I thought it'd be more contemporary.
Favourite drink?
Is wine included? Because if it's alcohol, then it's definitely wine. Otherwise, it'd be fizzy. Otherwise, it'd be like fizzy water.
The alcohol's included.
Okay, then wine.
Okay, I'll give you it. Okay.
I said white wine, but it's close enough.
Yeah, but let's be honest. If you really,
Although, and every wine
if
is
it came down to it, you would drink
acceptable.
any wine. So I'm going broad here.
What's her favourite movie?
Well, we just watched the Newsies recently, and that was something that she was trying to get me to watch for ages. But I would say, maybe Wedding Crashers.
Oh, wow.
Good job.
Right. So you're officially now tied in first place.
I'm
All right,
tied in first place.
with two to go.
All right,
Right.
I'm doing well. Wedding Crashers has been a long time favorite for us.
It's both of our
It's
favorite
both of
movies.
our favorites. A lot of what makes it easy is that we're very similar. So like a lot of Christine's favorites also my favorites, and vice versa. So like the food, the movie, like the country. So I just kind of think when in doubt, I just think about like what would be my favorite, and usually it's the same.
I'm so nervous right now because I've been in this position before where we've had someone in first, tied for first, and we're just about to get there.
All right, so I'm tied first. I've got 2 questions to go. All right, let's do it.
Tied first, 2 to go. I'm feeling the pressure, man. Right. So, what is her favourite TV show or season?
Favorite TV show? Oh, because it could be TV or it could be reality shows. Easy. Okay. I was thinking what she's watching now. It has to be The Office.
Oh, we've got new leaders.
Yeah.
I was like, you have to get
Yeah, I know.
this.
I don't know why that took me so long.
We literally have watched this so many times.
I don't know why that took me so long. Well, I was thinking.
Can't believe it took you that
I was
long.
thinking about your shows that you're watching, like your reality shows that you watch.
Yeah.
But I was like, I was running through the things like Netflix. And I was like, oh, Netflix. Oh, The Office, obviously.
I think we're going to have a 9 out of 10 here. So, can she speak any other languages?
Yes, Spanish. And a little bit of Australian.
Fine. There you go. You guys are new number 1. 9 out of 10.
I
Oh,
mean, we literally spend 24/7 together
Yeah.
for the last like 8 years. So I hope we can answer those questions.
Yeah, if we didn't get 9 out of 10, I'd be worried.
so I'm in the middle of trying to make a leaderboard, but see, even just trying to find a leaderboard online is very near impossible. I thought it'd been easy, like go on, like there'd be an app or something for it, but no, there's nothing for a leaderboard. So I need to keep on searching now, and then as soon as I've got it, I'll get it up online.
Nice.
So listen, guys, my new champions.
Yeah.
That's everything I've got for you guys today. I just want to thank you guys for making the time and coming and speak to me on the Static Traveller. It's been a pleasure, and speaking to people like yourselves, who've been out and had the experiences. It helps people like me that aren't able to travel or aren't able to go and live the kind of lifestyles that you guys are living. So for me, it really is. It's amazing to speak to you guys, and I really can't thank you enough.
Yeah,
thank you so much for having us. This is really fun.
Yeah, it's great.
Absolutely.
We love to talk travel.
So why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? Where can they find all your your Instagram, things like that? What's your handles?
Yeah, sure. So if you are looking for travel tips and suggestions on adventure travel locations and responsible tourism tips and everything like that, you can check out our blog, which is don'tforget2move.com. And all of our social media handles are don't forget the number 2move. So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, we're on YouTube. Wherever you get your travel content, you will find us.
And if you want to hear crazy travel stories of when things go wrong, you can check out our podcast, which is called Not So Bon Voyage. And that's everywhere you can find podcasts. And then all of our socials are at Not So Bon Voyage. So we're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, everything. And you can, hit us up.
Yep, website's notsobonvoyage.com.
Oh, yeah, my bad. The website for our podcast is notsobonvoyage.com.
Perfect. And I'll put all the links in the description for anyone that's listening, and anyone that wants to find your guys' content.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you for coming on. I just want to say thank you to everyone for listening. If you remember, and hit us a follow on Instagram, The Static Traveller, also on Facebook, and all my videos are now up to date on YouTube. That was a real grind getting them up, but I've managed to do it. And remember to follow today's guests. You guys have been absolutely brilliant, so thank you so much for coming to speak to myself.
Cheers, James.
Brilliant, thank you. So listen, until the next time we speak, you keep safe, and I can't wait to see where your adventure goes going forward.
Yeah, you too, mate.
So thank you for everyone for listening today, and until the next time, you keep travelling and I'll stay static. Thank you.